Hi everyone, welcome to Aquatics by Nature. This isn't actually the video that I'd intended to put out today, but unfortunately my iPad is out of action, so I can't do any editing, etc. So I thought I'd just do a sort of off-the-cuff video about the fish in this 28-year-old unfertilised, no water changed aquarium. Once the iPad's back up, then I'll probably do an edited version of this and caption some of the fish and give you the names and a few extra bits to make it a bit more interesting. But anyway, right now the mix of fish in this tank is a little bit odd. It's a bit of a sort of strange, eclectic sort of mix, really. It's basically just because I conglomerated a few tanks to do a bit of decorating here, so there's quite a few things just got all put in together. Quite a few oddments and things as well. It's not normally what I'd choose to keep in a tank like this. I'd normally keep maybe 2 to 3 species and have them in slightly larger numbers. It just looks a bit nicer and a little bit more kind of mellow. Although this tank's pretty chilled out, as I'm sure you're aware by now. I'll try and point out some of the fish as I go, but I don't know quite how well this will work doing it in this way, but I'll give it a go. First fish, I guess, is the good old black neon tetra, Hyphesobricon Herboaxle rodi, which are these fellas up here with a black stripe and that lovely red eye. I think there's probably still about a handful of them still in the tank. They're just one of those kind of timeless, real old favourites, really. And when you've got a decent number, they're quite a good shoaling fish. And they tend to shoal actually more at the end of the day. Not really sure why. At the moment they seem to be more sort of chilled out, just hanging around, but they tend to cruise around a bit more later in the day. They've always been a favourite, and I just like that kind of contrast, really. It's just a altogether pleasing and extremely peaceful common fish, really. Then I guess we'll come to the bloodfin tetras. They're glass bloodfins. Trying to see where there is one, sort of in the middle here at the back. Oh, actually there's one at the front, the slightly paler one. Some of you have probably noticed that there's a sort of a bent one that keeps cropping up in my videos. For some reason it seems to like photobombing my videos, but it was actually born with a bit of a bent spine, so you can't really help it. It's just getting a bit more exaggerated as it gets a bit older. But I think they're about, must be 6 or 7 years old now, so they're actually very, very tough fish. And it's a bit strange how the old ones seem to keep going even though they've got deformities and things. But no, it's quite a nice fish. I quite like them because they tend to sit a bit higher in the water than everything else. In fact, they often circle round actually in the higher water, sort of displaying at each other, which is quite useful for filling up an area that can be a little bit empty in the tank. And then we come to a real favourite of mine, the lemon tetras. So in the middle here, this sort of yellowish coloured fish. There's more up here with the nice black edge to the fins. It's one of those sort of, again, really lovely fish. It's one of those fish that when you go in a fish shop always looks very washed out and doesn't have any colour or anything, but they're actually a really lovely, charming fish. You just have to be a little bit patient and let them sort of settle in and get their full colour. I've actually got a little video of them that I caught a few weeks ago, them actually spawning in this tank. I'll try and remember to put a link in the description if any of you like to watch it. It's quite fun seeing them display and circle round each other. And you'll find the coloration changes quite a lot. They go quite a bit darker and the black edges all stand out. But no, it's a very nice fish. Another incredibly cheap fish, so they're a really good sort of value for money fish. Just kind of proves you don't have to spend loads of money to have interesting and nice fish in a tank. Next I'll probably do what is actually my favourite, which is the Emperor tetra, Nematobricon palmeri. I just saw one swim across and I've lost track of it. Oh, they're actually hiding. That's really frustrating. Oh, I don't know if you can see, there's one just gone across the back. In fact, there's a pair at the back of the tank there. The boys actually have blue eyes and the girls actually have green eyes, so they're quite an unusual fish in that they have that bigger difference in coloration. But it's a real favourite fish of mine. The males, when they sort of come of age, are fantastic things displaying at each other. They kind of go round and round in circles, but they don't do any harm really, but they do need a little bit more space than your kind of average little sort of neons and things like that. I'm hoping at some point that there's actually, I think there's 2 males and 4 females in here, although they're hard to spot at the moment. But as they get a little bit older, I hope sometime to be able to film the males actually sparring, because it's quite a spectacle. It's definitely worth watching. But they're a bit of sort of nostalgia for me, really, because in this tank I actually had a colony of Emperor-tetras that actually self-perpetuated for about 20 years. So as the old ones would sort of die off, you get a few babies survive, and there used to be a lot of moss at this end of the tank. And I think all the babies used to hide in the moss and sort of grow up safe from the adults. So it was quite fun, and it'd be fun to show you a few baby fish in this tank at some point as well. But unfortunately the fish are being a bit uncooperative. They're hanging out at the back a bit at the moment, but if they pop out the woodwork, I'll try and point them out for you again. Then I think we'll come to one or two of the more oddments, which again are going to be hard to spot, unfortunately. There's two little ruby tetras. There's one actually go down the back, but I don't think you can see it. But it's a tiny, tiny little nano fish, which is bright kind of orange red. Really charming little fish, and has very, very different behaviour from your normal tetras. They tend to actually, I think they're like micro predators. They spend a lot of time lurking in the cryptocoryons in this tank. You can tell by their posture, which is sort of head down, that they're actually hunting something, probably tiny, tiny little crustaceans and copepods and things that wander around on the cryptocoryons, but it's quite fun to watch. Yeah, there is actually one at the back just going along, just a very small little fish, but it's a lovely little fish if you ever get a chance to see them. So Axelrhodia stigmatius, which is a fabulous little fish. There are two in here. Yeah, he's at the back there. The two in here actually ones I bred some years ago. I had a little tank that was just kind of one of my experimental tanks that I like playing around with. It was pure rainwater and just inert sand, so it was mega, mega soft, no water hardness whatsoever. But I managed to get a few babies to survive. Interestingly, that tank actually still grew plants, which, considering it had basically zero TDS and zero hardness, was pretty good going, really. It just sort of proves that you can grow plants anywhere, really. Then we come to good old glow lights, which for some reason they love hanging out in this part of the tank. Another real classic fish. Do like glow lights. Males have these wonderful little white tips to the fins, and again they do their little dances, although they seem to be incredibly laid back at the moment. But I'm sure quite a few of you have seen in my other videos that they spend lots of time in the middle of the tank, just sort of circling each other and doing their little displays. But they're another incredibly cheap fish. Fantastic bargain, to be perfectly honest. They're one of my all-time sort of favourite fish. Always liked them. I can sit and watch them for hours with a cup of tea. Perfect for that. In fact, I think they're probably a good subject for doing a chill-out video. There's an Emperor-tetra just going across a male with a blue eye. And that's a female with a green eye, just wandering around. A good old Amano shrimp as well. But no, they're rather wonderful things. And a few of you have also spotted my one Ivanstoffi rainbow fish, Pseudomugil Ivanstoffi. Quite an unusual fish, actually. It's not normally a fish that I would put in a mixed tank, to be honest. Pseudomugils are generally not fish that do very well in mixed tanks, but this particular species seems to be a bit sturdier than other Pseudomugils, so he seems to have done all right. He's only one of a kind now, so he seems to, strangely enough, he thinks he's a lemon tetra a lot of the time. And again, you've probably seen in some of my videos, he does a lot of displaying at the lemon tetras. In fact, he's on cars, he's doing it a bit now. It just seems to, I think he probably thinks he's another lemon tetra, but that keeps him busy, so I think that's fine. There's also one neon tetra in here, but I'm sure you all know neon, so just an odd one left over. Again, it's a slightly bent fish, which is strange how the bent ones sometimes outlive the ones that were perfect shape, but it does happen. And then we've got another oddment here. We've got a good old flame tetra. Again, just one quite elderly female left over. Hyphosobricon flammus, or flammeus, however you want to pronounce it. It's one of those real classic old fish. It's probably, in fact, it is one of the very, very oldest characins or tetras in the trade. It's one of the few tetras that's been kept in aquaria for over 100 years. They've been around since at least the 1920s, so it's really sort of survived the test of time. Not quite as common these days, but if you see them, they're another really cheap Kind of quite fun fish to keep, really. Quite placid, although you do need a little group. Sometimes they get a bit boisterous if you haven't got a few. Also, one or two people in the comments actually mentioned these guys, the sort of slightly yellowish fish with the blue eyes. They're actually an extremely rare fish. The Hyphesobricon condonensis. It's one of those fish that you can't actually buy. They actually come as bycatch in other shipments of fish, and the only reason I got them was because when I bought the emperor tetras, which were wild caught fish, there were these two swimming around in the tank, and I asked the shop if I could have them, and they fortunately let me have them. I didn't actually know at the time what they were, but I happened to be watching one of Oliver Lucanos's below water videos on Colombian tetras, and lo and behold, there they were, found in the wild with emperor tetras. So that was a kind of a lucky break, really, for me, because I don't think I'd ever have identified them any other way. It's not the most colourful of fish, although they do sometimes take on a bit more sort of yellow and pink than they've got today, but still quite a nice sort of fish to have in the tank. Nice to have the odd unusual fish. Apparently they're kind of related to those Colombian redfin blue tetras, the Colombianus, which they do kind of resemble a slightly sort of paler form of, really. And I guess before I kind of finish, I should always point out the amano shrimps that are everywhere, and the little Neocaridina shrimps that are everywhere. They're just great things to have in a tank. You've also probably noticed in some videos, you see them, they actually cruise around actually in the mid-water, especially in the evening, which is, it just gives the tank another dynamic, really. I just like watching them. And I mean, they live forever, so I think they're great value things to have in a tank. And I like to have the tank crawling with things, you know, you've got shrimp here and a shrimp here, and then you've got snails and things. There's always something going on in the tank, which is something that I just enjoy, really. You know, it's the more things crawling around and swimming around, there's just more to watch, just on so many different levels. Not only that, the more different sort of what I call clean-up crew, shrimps and snails and things you have in the tank, the more stable your tank actually tends to become. It's kind of, diversity comes with stability in many ways. They all have their own little jobs to play, so they're all quite useful. Anyway, I hope I haven't forgotten any, but I think that's covered all the fish in here. Yeah, there's a little Axelrodia, little red fish with a black dot on its tail. And so that's about as big as they get. They're very tiny. Yeah, I don't know if you can see behind the embulia there, but it's rather a lovely little fish. Anyway, I think that's all I can think of. Anyway, if you'd like to know more about my naturally balanced, no water change, unfertilised aquariums, I'd be eternally grateful as ever if you subscribe and give me a like. And if you'd like to help this channel grow further and reach more people, please share as well. That would be good. You can also check out my playlists. There's lots of other videos on there now. But most importantly, enjoy your aquarium. Don't be a slave to it. Thanks for watching.